Hello, students! Today, we are going to learn about a very important story from South Africa. And it's a story that teaches us what democracy really is all about.
Let's begin with these powerful words from Nelson Mandela, a man who would change his country forever. Just think about it. He said this when he was on trial for treason, which means betraying your country. He was prepared to die for his ideal of an equal and democratic South Africa.
First, to really understand this story, we have to go back in time. We need to see how South Africa was a deeply divided society.
The society was divided by skin color. There was a small number of white settlers, the Europeans, and they held all the power. But the vast majority of people, about 3/4 of the population, were the native black Africans. There were also people of mixed races who were called colored, as well as people who had migrated from India.
Now, this system of division and oppression was actually made into a law. It was given a name that became famous all over the world for its injustice.
That name was apartheid. So what was it? Well, apartheid was not just an idea, it was an official government policy of racial discrimination. It controlled every aspect of life.
So what did this system of segregation actually look like for the people who were living there every single day?
Imagine this. If you were not white, you had no right to vote. You were not allowed to live in white areas. Everything was separate. You had separate trains, buses, and taxis, separate hospitals, schools, and colleges, even separate beaches, swimming pools, and public toilets. And on top of that, black people could not form groups or protest. This system created a life of constant humiliation, and it denied basic human dignity to all non-white people.
This sign from a beach shows us just how stark and cruel this segregation was in practice. It clearly says that the beach is only for the white race group.
But the people did not accept this injustice, of course not. They began a long and a very difficult struggle for their freedom.
The fight was led by an organization called the African National Congress, or the ANC. Starting in 1950, blacks, coloreds, and Indians launched protest marches and strikes. They were even joined by many sensitive white people and workers' unions. And slowly, other countries around the world began to condemn apartheid as racist and unjust.
And how did the white government react? Well, they tried to crush this movement with force. They tortured and killed thousands of people, and they put the leaders in jail. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, who was imprisoned for 27 long years.
But as the struggle grew stronger, the government finally realized that it could not continue ruling through force. A change was coming.
Let's look at the key events that led to a new country. In the late 1980s, the government started changing its policies and getting rid of discriminatory laws. Then in 1990, after 28 years, Nelson Mandela walked free from prison. This started a period of negotiations between the ANC and the government. And finally, on the 26th of April 1994, South Africa became a democracy, and a new, multiracial government was formed.
So now that they were free, the people of South Africa faced a very difficult question.
And the question was this: how could the black majority trust the white minority who had oppressed them? And on the other hand, how could the white minority trust that they would now be safe?
You see, both groups had deep fears and very important interests that they needed to protect. The black majority wanted to ensure real democracy, majority rule, and they wanted social and economic rights. The white minority wanted to protect its privileges and property, and they feared revenge.
After long negotiations, they reached a remarkable compromise, a promise to build a future together. The white minority agreed to majority rule and one person, one vote. In return, the black majority agreed that majority rule would not be absolute, and that they would not take away the property of the minority. And incredibly, they agreed to forgive the whites for all the terrible things they had done in the past.
But how could they make this compromise work? The only way was to write down a set of supreme rules that no government could ignore, and this is called a constitution. A constitution is a set of basic rules that generates trust. It says how a government will be chosen, it limits the government's power, and most importantly, it protects the rights of all citizens.
The Constitution that they created became one of the finest in the world. It turned a very bitter past into a very hopeful future.
This idea of a rainbow nation is a beautiful symbol of their new society. It represents people of all skin colors living together in peace and equality.
As Nelson Mandela himself explained, the Constitution was a promise to remember the past so that it would never, ever be repeated.
So let's think about this powerful story. What does it show us about why a constitution is so important for any country? It's a real-life lesson for all of us.